Well, this is the latest disquisition, the latest screed and sermon on the various goings-on in the world. But it's really more important for all of you truth warriors out there to apply this kind of a kata to your critical thinking quiver. What I mean by that is we would take some of the issues that are going on right now and look at it a little bit differently. Let's start off with the premise that you and I are completely different than the rest of the world. In fact, the rest of the world, I should say, is completely different than that which is perceived to be the majority. When it comes to American news, Western news, but specifically American mainstream media news, it's on another planet, another frequency, another dimension, another universe, another everything. Let's start off right off the bat by the most important issue, which is the most fun to talk about. And before we begin, I want to talk to you about something. And that is the myth of analyzing something. And what happens is when you analyze something, anything, let's assume, for example, you were to be asked to appear on a show, some show, doesn't matter what it is. And they ask you, who were some of the influences in your life? And you would think, wow, I've got to either answer that question or I can really think about who the influences in my life were. But most of the time it's the former. I've got to answer that question. I've got to say something. I've been asked to say something as opposed to, what do you mean influences in my life? I'm an accountant. John Lennon was important, but you mean accountant? No, nobody talks like that. Nobody ever answers the question. You give them an answer. I was doing an interview the other day. Someone asked me, what do you think this shooting says? The fact that people would be Facebook live streaming. What does this say about society? The answer is nothing. But that's not good for a TV show, so I answered the question. I gave a kind of a complicated answer when in fact that's not the answer. Occam's razor. The simplest answer for something is the most important. The simplest answer. Sometimes things just don't have an interview-worthy answer. Sometimes things are very, very simple. Richard Pryor did a great bit years ago where they asked him one time, I forget the context, but they said, why'd you kill all those people? He says, because they was home. Well, sometimes that's just it. Sometimes the reasons for things are not complicated and there's nothing artistic to it. There was a guy that I know, I don't even know if he's with us. I shouldn't say this, but he was Jeffrey Dahmer's court-appointed lawyer. Jerry, the name escapes me. Very nice fellow. He represented Jeffrey Dahmer in some piddly thing. And then when Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested for all these terrible, serial killing, with the drilling the hole and the acid and all this terrible stuff, they called him. And I think it was Milwaukee, am I recall? Anyway, I just memory. This just hit me now as I'm talking to you. And they asked him, they told him, they said, there's a guy who you represented. We think he's the terrible killer, Jeffrey Dahmer. He said, oh, it's not Jeffrey Dahmer. No way. Jeffrey Dahmer's the most boring. He said he was the most boring person. And he made it sound, he says, no, I mean, so boring that it makes you angry. There was nothing to Jeffrey Dahmer. Turns out there was a lot to Jeffrey Dahmer. So when he was interviewing Jeffrey and he said, Jeffrey, I noticed a couple of things was very interesting in your refrigerator when you had the skulls or the heads. And again, I'm just memory of this, loose memory. Something was arranged, either skulls, evidence, something horrible, something horrific, something gruesome, ghoulish. They said, Jeffrey, we noticed that these were lined up. What did that mean? Why? Again, trying to get to the core, the interstitial truth of this madman, to understand why. Like people always ask, why are there shootings? Why is there terrorism? Why? Okay, why? Give us this reason. And Jeffrey Dahmer said something to the effect, I'll never forget this, of real estate. He said, real estate? What does that mean? My God, that's symbolic of something, real estate. Yes, that's it. Turns out it meant nothing. Either Jeffrey was stupid or just said real. It meant nothing. Sometimes the motivations for things do not exist. The reason why people do good things, the reason why people do bad things, oftentimes involves no deep thinking, no referential, Freudian, some event that changed the motivation. No, sometimes we don't know this. So you have to stop going for the big term paper answer, the essay answer, the deep-seated, profound answer that brings in religion and media and music and diet and the reasons why did that man open fire and kill those people at the Fort Lauderdale airport? Why was it because of this? Why did those black youths take that white, we'll get to this in a moment, special needs or mentally disturbed or mentally challenged or whatever? We'll get to that in a moment too. And why? Why did they do this? Was it because of Trump? Was it because of the media? Was it because of bad parenting? Was it because of... What was the reason? What was that reason that you give me to explain this that links it all together? And their answer is nothing. Evil is not even the answer. Evil is... No, they're not even smart enough to be evil. They're like the Richard Pryor character, because they was home. That's it. There's nothing to this. It just happens. Next, it happens with a frequency, an infrequency, that is so great you can't draw anything from this. Anything. It's so... 320 million people in this country. What? Doesn't mean anything. It's just these people did this. So to get to that in a moment. I made a series of notes I want to cover. I mentioned this, I wanted to allude to this. Senator Bill Nelson from Florida. How about that for boring? He makes John Kerry look like Rip Taylor. You ever seen? Well, I think that this man is... it's a head case, mental case. What do they call him? Mental case? He's a mental case. And they said, don't say that. Who cares? Let me rephrase this. Who gives a shit what you call this guy, all right? Let me just be blunt. I don't care what you call a psycho who kills people. Stop worrying about this. Now, you and I know that mental illness is a big problem. You and I notice that mental illness probably comprises a very large chunk of all the criminal justice problems, and the way we treat mental illness in this country is beyond medieval. I understand that, okay? That's true. The young man who was taken hostage, kidnapped by those 4 black thugs, we'll get to that in a moment, inner city or Chicago or Midwest or mixed gendered. I can describe them any way I want. Any way I want. We'll get to the race part in a moment. But this man they either called him special needs. When I was a kid, they would have called him retarded. And nobody thought anything of it. In the classical special ed world, they used to say EMR, educably mentally retarded, was an actual definition. Now, going back in time, we had, of course, idiots. An idiot was an actual medical terminology. I don't think that would go over well today. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lefevre, yes, little Johnny is clinically diagnosed as an idiot. I mean, it doesn't work. Idiot savant. Remember that one? The savant part, idiot. So, yes, we change. The word black was black, colored, Afro-American, African-American, person of color, Negro. Here's one for you that has nothing to do with this, but the word dealing with death. Mortician, undertaker, gravedigger, funeral director. One is going to be thanatician, from thanatos, a Greek for death. So things, it changes. I remember one time I was looking for an orthopedic surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, physiatrist. It's like, what? What are you talking about? What? Who? Where'd this come from? Anyway, so the different names. Now, I'm going to go back and forth, so follow with me. I mentioned about the labeling. The issue in Chicago of those 4 thugs, savage animals, anybody who does that to a human being is a savage. Now, when you say that, people say, oh, that's racist. No, you're racist because you're reading the Rorschach test a weird way. It tells me a lot about you. Why do you think savagery has to do with being black? What does that have to do with it? No, white savage. Charles Manson is hanging on by a thread as we speak. By the way, Charles Manson never killed anybody. But the people who did, at his behest, at his order, at his inspiration, they were savages. Animals, what they did to Lino LaBianca and his wife and Sharon Tate. Savagery. Bestial. Animalistic. No problems. You say that about black people who do this, and immediately the patella reflex says, that's racist. That tells me something about you. That tells me something about you. You're making the connection. What do you think? Are you going back to that Africa Tarzan business? I mean, was that what you think? But, because remember, whenever you ever had any kind of African reference in any movie, same thing with Native Americans and Indians, they were always like crazy and, Tarzan, it just, is that racist or is it stupid? I don't know. But it tells me about you. You think is that what you do? You think that if I say savage, what are you telling me about what you think black people are? Tell me more. Years ago, there was a friend of mine whose son, my God, the kid must be 40 years old, and I have no idea. But his kid, they were driving in a car, and the kid was in the car seat, and a car cut him off. And the kid said, shit. And the father said, what did you say? And the kid said, I didn't say fuck. Which I love. What does that mean? Tells me top of mind awareness. Tells me what you're thinking. There was a joke years ago. Lenny Bruce kind of did it, where they had the censors sitting in the front row, and he was waiting for this comic to say something. Pardon this caprolalia today, but this is you have to understand these words as part of the joke, the story. So anyway, supposedly the story is the censor is waiting, and Lenny Bruce used to always say the blah blah and the blah blah, and he blah blah'd her and the blah blah, and he blah blah blah. But anyway, so finally the censor who was standing there waiting stands up and says, "You were going to say fuck, weren't you?" And Lenny Bruce said, "Wow, this tells me about you." You see, that's what it tells me about. It tells me about a connection that you're making. There's 2 kinds of people. Actually 3, but 2 for sure. One are the professional people who are offended, like Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton and his crew sit around all day reading the newspapers or scouring the news to see if they can be offended about something, anything. So they can go, basically put the arm on them and shake them down for all kinds of money, which is what the National Action Network used to do. It's classic, Al. But there are other people who have weird stuff they're fighting in themselves. Weird ideas of what they think. And they make the connection. And I swear to you, as I should go blind if I'm lying. The first time I heard somebody say, when you call, because anybody who acts like a savage or a beast in terms of personal human crime, and somebody said, that's racist, I'm thinking, why? Why? Because I have a hard time with the word racist, because a lot of times people say, oh, Mexico, are you being racist? Racist. Aren't we talking about races here? They're Caucasian. I mean, maybe I'm too anthropological here, like I'm a Margaret Mead or something. Because, like, excuse me, under the tip of the appellation and the taxonomy of humanity, we have Negroid, Caucasoid, Malay. Is it Mongoloid, Caucasoid, Negroid? So I get into this race business. Everybody who says something is like, I don't want that guy. He's a Muslim. You're a racist. No, he's white. What does that have to do with anything? Get the word right. What are you talking about? Why is that racist? Racist now encompasses everything. So let me just go and tell you something. If you go out and you act like you're not a human being, and you elicit savagery. Irrespective of your particular demographic, you are a savage. You're a beast. You're not human. You're a hominid. You're some type of we may share DNA, but that's about it. But isn't it funny how people get so offended? And also you have these groups of people. The professional rodeo clown. I use the term rodeo clown. I want you to understand how that means, or what that means. The rodeo clown is a very important part of bull riding, because when the rider's thrown off of the bull turns around, he's pissed off and he wants to just crush this guy. So they bring in the rodeo clown to say, hey, over here, toughest act in show business. Think about that one. Hey, look at me. I'm a clown. Huh? And the bull says, well, I may not get him, but you'll do. And he goes after him, and of course, why they think the rodeo clown has superhuman speed, I have no idea, because you never hear about rodeo clowns being killed, but I guess there are. But it's a distractor. See, and that's what people on TV today do. That's what the Don Lemons do. Don Lemon on CNN is by far my favorite, because he combines everything. The profound idiot, the unicellular Boeotian, the dork, the dimwit, the dweeb, the inappropriate, stupid kid who's going to say something bad. You know he's going to, because he's a joke. He's a joke, but he's making a lot of money. He doesn't give a damn. But he has no personal pride. Are you kidding? He almost was on the right track, but he's brought on CNN along with, what is her name? I'll get that in a moment. This is the woman who said, this is not a hate crime. These are children who exhibit a behavior that is most probably the product of bad parenting. And I'm thinking, here's a black lady, and Lemon's a black guy, and these 4 kids are black. And if I didn't know better, I would think that they're basically seeing this because they don't want to ever admit, maybe, that these black kids might be racist themselves, might be committing a hate crime, and might be doing the very same thing that they've been accusing Donald Trump of doing, at least in theory. And that's the way that is. It's called the double standard. And it is the meat and potatoes, the backbone of all American conversation. Best stuff for talk radio there is. If you ever go on talk radio and you want to have a topic where people will call in, mention race, double standards, number one, though, even better, spanking. Start off with this. Spanking is cruel, is sick and inhuman, and any parent who spanks their kid should go to prison. Start off with that one. You won't be let out of the studio or the station after that one. But number 2 to that is, of course, this race. And it's a big joke. So what happens is they go through this and they sit there and they say, okay, let me see, what do I got here? Who do we have? Okay, we got Don Lemon, idiot. Who else we got? Oh, here we go. Yeah, she's good. Get this woman on yet. This is the woman who won't say that black. She's a kind of reverse racist. She'll piss people off. Get this guy. He's a cretin too. Get him a grand wizard. Why? Because our show sucks. Nobody watches it. The only hope for us is to put some people on, pray to God Don says something stupid, or gets drunk, or gets a piercing, kind of like he did on New Year's Eve, by design and with their approval and approbation. And then maybe it'll go in Mediaite or other sites, and then we'll get the kind of a post show hit later on, and that'll count too. I mean, we could be number 1 on the internet, because today, digital, regular world, who knows? As long as you know who these people are, believe me, Zucker and the boys at CNN are thrilled every time Don Lemon says something which is just stupid. Because the part of, and by the way, I don't think it's an act. He's stupid, but he enjoys the warmth of the Klieg lights. He enjoys the fame. Because if they fame infamy, it doesn't matter. As long as they know who you are, you get paid, and you're talked about. That's it. So what he's doing, and others, by basically coming on and saying that, well, these kids are not. Now, we've said this before, and we'll say it again. Let's take, instead of a black, don't say retarded, don't say, whack job, because he's not. I think it's special needs. That's pretty, euphemistic enough and watered down enough and meaningless enough. Special. You're special. It's the Special Olympics. It's a great word. It's like when they took the word gay. Remember that? Did you ever watch an old movie and they go, oh, Johnny's so gay. Having a gay old time. Wasn't that the Flintstones? We'll have a gay old time. Gone now. We don't say that anymore. It's like Daniel Dennett used the word bright to be used for the atheist. Dennett and the atheist used the word bright, somebody who doesn't have a mystical or supernatural worldview, and blah, blah, blah. So you get these people like Don Lemon and others who really just is stupid. I mean, really, this guy is just, and doesn't really get it, and doesn't understand humiliation. Like what next? Jerry Springer knows his show is stupid, knows it's horrible, knows it's the worst form of just vile, humanity. But he's smart and he knows it, and he kind of winks at you. Like he tells you, I know this is bad. I know it. Maury Povich, to an extent, too, kind of knows it. My good friend Bill Cunningham, I don't know if he knew it. That's a different story. That show's off the air, I think. But in that particular realm, that particular genre, some of these guys, they know it's tragic. They're very smart people. They get it. Don Lemon does not. Don Lemon is a star. It's all he knows. Hey, they're talking about me. Yeah, Don. Yeah, they're talking about you, all right. But I don't think this is what most of us would have in mind if it were we who were the subject of this. So you look at why CNN is they're being so incredibly tough over the fact of whether they should call this hate crime or whatever it is, because you've got 4 black people and they won't talk about the race. Now, the reason why race is important. The reason why race is important is that when you talk about hate crimes, which I've told you a million times, I'm against them because it's taking a constitutionally protected idea, namely hate, an idea, a motivation, and is pairing something that's already cognizable in law, namely a crime, and you're exacerbating, elevating, and aggravating a particular crime because you dare to utter something which is constitutionally permissible, and that is nuts. I don't want to relitigate that one. You've heard me say it a million times. However, when you are talking about it, right or wrong, one of the elements of the issue is that you have to have race. You theoretically would have a hard time, I guess, proving to, let's say, a jury or a judge that a black person hates black people, and this crime is a hate crime because the victim was black and the perpetrator is black. It doesn't make any sense. So believe it or not, same race identification would actually negate it. So race is relevant. It really is. But CNN won't talk about it. Now, and I know, and simply this. Let's just get down to business here. We have an infantile way of looking at race. We have, for 14% of the population, which is what the African-American population is. We, when I say we, I mean non-African-American, know nothing about this population. We know nothing. Nothing. And let me throw in Asians, let me throw in any other group. Remember years ago when, I never forget this, when Bill Cosby, bless his heart, the late Bill Cosby, so to speak, in terms of his career dying. Remember when Cosby came out, the Cosby Family? And somebody said, it's such an unrealistic show. So why is that? Well, the father is a doctor, the mother's a lawyer. I said, well, why is it unrealistic? Well, that's not black families. How do you know? What? How do you know? You don't know black demographic. You never studied this. You just have this idea that all black people live. And this was the beef that Trump had, that black people are very unhappy because inner cities are bad. And it's like, well, Donald, not all black people live there, but we kind of understand what you were saying, but that's not true. So the sad part is, you ready for this? Not the sad part, the true part, is that virtually this significantly most black people, as well as others, have nothing to do with crime. Don't have criminal records, don't get arrested, don't whatever. However, you can look at how 40% of the population may, in some cases, be 50, 60, 67%, 2/3 of the jail population. We'll get to that later. It's a different subject. Bottom line is, we go nuts over race. But if you want to talk about a case in which a white special needs young man was duct taped or taped or blindfolded and stabbed and cut and terrorized and kidnapped and subject to terror, which might be I hope there's a federal crime in there, or anybody who does that, you better take in the fact that he's white and they're black and they're yelling. Did you read what was said? By the way, let me rephrase that. Did you hear what was said during the live stream? Donald Trump, N-word bombs, white word bombs. I mean, if you look at me and you say race had nothing to do with this, hate crime, the prototypical hate crime, had nothing to do with this, that this was based upon bad parenting or whatever it was, then you're just as stupid, if not more stupid, than Don Lemon. It is. Now, what do you do with it? Simple. Take these kids and break it off in them. However, remember, the 18 or so year old now isn't going to look like the 40-year-old later. The 40-year-old person is going to look back and say, what the hell was I thinking? Because they're stupid, they're young, they're angry, and it's Facebook. Next point. Facebook has nothing to do with this. Facebook has nothing to do with the fact that they use Facebook to live stream. If they had used an Apple, smartphone to record it, to upload it, Apple had nothing to do with it. You know that. This causation stuff has nothing to do with it. So your question is, well, why do they do this? It goes back to what I said initially. Because it happens. I don't know. Do you know the number of kids who were involved, oh my God, in the Congo, Ivory Coast, young kids, Africans, not African Americans, Africans, who were involved, used as assassins and hitmen and soldiers who killed and were involved in rape and butchering, true savagery at an early age. I mean, kids, forget watching TV and watching whatever it is. They followed them later on and they said, well, if it's true that kids are affected by their early lives, and if Americans, they always say, oh, the video games are so violent. You ever see Japanese games, Japanese porn, Japanese everything? These people should be mass murderers if this means anything. No, it's not true. It doesn't happen. And these kids did not turn out to be mass murderers. Some were seriously affected, as you can imagine. So none of these models work. Going back to what I originally said, I don't know why these people do it, and there is no answer. It's that kid. What makes a rapist? I don't know. You say, well, he had a bad background. So did he. Do you ever hear during a sentencing part of a murder trial, they say, well, my parents separated at an early age. So did half of the jury. Well, my mother spanked me. So, while I was sexually abused, I hate to say it, so it happens tragically a lot, but people don't turn out to be serial killers. Why you? I don't know. It's just, why did this guy turn out to be a Westinghouse scholar? I don't know. Did you ever see this one kid in the family who's like a genius who all of a sudden takes off? And I don't know. We never marvel at that. So let me just stop you from always trying to find some reason for this. Which leads us to this next problem, this horrible situation at Florida. Now, anytime there's somebody, first thing I do is, and let me tell you something right now. Let me stop for a second. Let me clear something up. Little word to the wise, especially you newly minted, quote, conspiracy folks who go online and blog and tweet and post and all this. This is not my first rodeo. There are people who believe that every time there is any kind of shooting, especially a mass shooting or school shooting or any kind of mass terror, Boston bombing, Sandy Hook, whatever, it's crisis actors, false flag, not real, theater, and the like. Okay. There are instances where that's true. It deserves complete and close scrutiny. Okay, that's true. A lot of these ISIS videos, you ever seen that? 3-camera jib shots with post-production. Are you kidding me? These aren't real. Some of them are. Some of them are. Some of them aren't. You can't immediately say false flag, crisis actors. You can't do that. Just like I'm still getting letters from these people with this Pizzagate, and I'm saying, make the connection for pedophile rings. Well, let me tell you something. This guy's got some pretty weird pictures on it. I know. Make the connection. Well, and I just walk away. Okay? So when it comes to this, the first thing I would do is, if I was the investigator, I would say, I want to talk to this guy. I want to say, did this guy have any FBI, MK Ultra stuff? Because that exists, absolutely, but I don't know if it happened here. That's not my patellar knee-jerk and reflex action. It's not. So I just don't do that, okay? I don't do that. But I want to know, especially, you went to the FBI? Was he an informant? Was he used? These guys flip constantly. Okay, what's the backlash? What do people want? Whenever there's a shooting, whenever there's anything involving Muslims, this goes back to the Hegelian dialectic about problem, reaction, solution. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis, that kind of a thing. There are people right now who are going to be calling for more gun laws. You know how that works. It's the anti-gun crowd, which is the government. Remember, they want to repeal the Second Amendment, they want disarmament, and they want confiscation. That's what that's about. So I'm very suspect. But what I do is I don't start saying this. I don't say, aha, inside job, aha, crisis actors, aha, MK Ultra, mind control, aha. No. Because people who read the subject think, is this what I say every time it happens? No. You don't say that every time it happens. Look at the facts. So, going back to what I said, what does it mean? It means nothing. Let me tell you this much. There's 1.5 billion, roughly, Muslims on the planet today. If 10% were radical jihadists, that's 350 million of them. And you would be seeing every single day pipe bombs, trains derailed, forest fires, you name it, everywhere. This can happen anytime, any place. And also, when people are found, you will normally find disturbed people who say disturbed things. You will hear that. They might use the Bible, the Quran. Didn't this guy say I'm not Jewish or something? They're going to say stuff you name it. They're going to be saying things and doing things that are representative of somebody who is not necessarily with it. Psychotic, neurotic, not necessarily the same, and these people are not necessarily criminally insane. Criminally insane, to satisfy that standard, means that you, using the McNaughton test, which is pretty much the universal standard, you at the time did not recognize the criminality of it, the difference between right and wrong, and you couldn't affect your behavior. You couldn't comport with the law. Almost an irresistible impulse, which is a different story. The Durham, ALI, ABA, diminished capacity, other different standards which are not as strict. But most of the time you get people who say, no, I'm not crazy. I'm not psychotic. I don't hear voices. I just want to go and shoot people. That's what I wanted to do. Ted Bundy was not crazy. Crazy is a different story. Psychotic is a different story. So what you're seeing right now is the chance for you and me to talk about this. Now, let me tell you this much. We're going to wrap it up with this. You appreciate this kind of discussion. I do as well. That's why I'm doing it. This doesn't play on a 3-minute soundbite world of the Don Lemon Circus Hour. Where Don Lemon and his friends and others say these stupid things. Rachel Maddow's getting into it. You notice how Rachel Maddow's been getting kind of desperate lately, where she's talking about, and is Trump going to put me in a camp? It's like, Rachel, take it easy. Oh, and how about RT? Does somebody have stock in RT? Have you ever heard RT mentioned this much? Al Jazeera must be going crazy. What about us? What about us? Nobody talks about us. Al Jazeera, CCTV, PBS, Rayuno, Press TV, the Iranians, nothing. State-sponsored, state-owned, state. Who is doing this? Who is, and also making this connection between what? Trump and the election and RT? What? Do you see how every day, and my wife will tell you, I walk around saying, I'm in an asylum. None of this makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. I feel like I'm in the day room of Creedmoor. And I'll leave it at that. We're going to continue with this. Have a marvelous day. It is snowing like a mother in New York. And it's beautiful. Not good to be outside, though. But it's snowing. And the weather people are going nuts because they don't know what to say. They're still trying to perpetuate this idea that they're on TV telling you the weather when you have a phone with 40 applications that will tell you the weather at any time regarding any place. Always like these videos. I appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing. Keep subscribing. Pass this on. We are picking up 41,000 subscribers, 6.9 million views. We are just blowing this thing up. That is it. We're on fire. Keep those cards and letters coming. Your emails are terrific with you holding up devices with me on it. I love the pictures of you. That's great too, and where you live. But if you can get both the same together, that's terrific. Sometimes I get some mail that I think, ooh, I'm never going to ever embarrass you. I will never divulge your name, but I may read some of the stuff you write because sometimes it is just say, why? Why? But very, very few. Most are just beautiful. All right, so like the video, subscribe, and until you and I see each other again, this is your new best friend, Lionel, reminding you to comment as you see fit.